Hello everyone, welcome. My name is Baron and this is my channel where I talk about some book stuff. I'm the book baron. All right, so what I wanted to talk about today are some books that I really thought I was gonna end up hating, but I end up liking them. I wanted to do this for a couple reasons. One, I've been noticing this trend with hype around books kind of follows a similar pattern to a hype cycle that we see in technology pretty frequently, which is when a technology is introduced or a book is introduced, we hear all these really great things, everyone hypes it up, it's everyone's new favorite, and then the hate kind of comes in and there's this, what they call the trough of disillusionment. Then all of a sudden, everyone doesn't seem to like it, and then eventually things even out. But I think a lot of us end up falling for the hype or the anti-hype for a specific book based on what we've heard from either the hype or anti-hype cycle. And as a mood reader too, sometimes I just like to challenge myself. I'm not going into a book hoping I hate it. Sometimes I just like to push my boundaries and see if I can find a new trope or a new genre that will work for me. All that to say, I'm gonna be talking about some books that thought I would absolutely hate, and I ended up liking. These are in no particular order. I just scrounged around on Goodreads for a little bit and found a few of these. So the first one that I'm going to be talking about is Ice Planet Barbarians by Ruby Dixon. As a sci-fi lover, I was like, why would I want to read alien smut? That is so bizarre. And that was the only context and the only things I was really hearing about it was that it was a bunch of women boinking some blue aliens. And I was like, well, that doesn't sound good. I ended up really liking this book because you know what? There's actually a lot of plot to this book, which I wasn't expecting at all based on how people were talking about it. The premise of this book is that these women are abducted from Earth. These aliens are horrible. Horrible. But something happens with the spaceship that they are being held captive on. They end up crash landing on a planet that they deem not Hoth, which as a Star Wars fan, I'm here for it. They end up realizing that they are going to need to explore this planet in order to survive. And that's when they run into these blue aliens and things kind of evolve from there. They have sort of like a fated mates type of element where they have like a Quee, which is like an organism that kind of like lives symbiotically in their bodies. Each of the books follows a different couple within the clan, a different woman from the spaceship, and typically one of these blue alien guys. Honestly, there's a lot more plot to these books than you would expect. Especially the first one. The first one, I was shocked. I was like, I'm having a really good time. What's happening right now? That's our first book. Next up, Poison Roses by Jamin Eve and Tate James. There was nothing in particular about this book specifically where I was like, I'm not going to like it, other than some of the tropes that were being utilized and how I had heard people talk about Tate James writing previously with Madison Kate series. It's a Why Choose, it's Rockstar, we've got some Mafia. This is sort of like an everything in the kitchen sink type of book. And when I heard people initially talking about it, I was like, not really into Why Choose at the time, because I was like, it just doesn't seem very realistic. And what I had heard about Tate James writing generally is that it's very over dramatic, it's over the top, it's unrealistic. And that's something that I typically don't like in books because I just have such a hard time buying into the premise that I can't suspend my disbelief for long enough in order to enjoy what's going on. The premise of this book is a girl ends up kind of in a sticky situation. She's been kicked out of her home and she ends up working at a restaurant for one night in order to earn some money and get herself back on her feet a little bit. When she's at this restaurant, something really horrible happens and she ends up running into an ex of hers that's involved in the mafia. She knows that he's gonna come after her because she's been witness to something, so she escapes and runs into another ex of hers and his bandmates. And the bandmates agree to help protect her from this mafia guy. It goes in all sorts of crazy directions from there, but that's the basic premise of the first book, because this is a series of 4 books. I was able to just have fun with this book in a way that I hadn't been able to with overdramatic books previously, because this book is really self-aware. It knows it's overdramatic. It's not trying to sell you on the emotions of it. In fact, this book calls itself out at one point because there's an inconsistency right in the text. They acknowledge that this is over the top. It did make it really fun because once I was in it, then I was able to just roll with the punches of every crazy thing that was happening. There are explosions. There is mafia. There is hackers. There is coordinated attacks. There are people on the run. It is absolutely bonkers, crazy, wild. That's our second book. Next up, we have Saint and Sinner by Sierra Simone. I'm just gonna put a photo of Saint up here because that was the first one that I read. They both kind of fall into the same category. I went into these books not thinking that I would like them because I was a little leery about the mixing of a smutty book with religion. For me personally, I just didn't really find that concept very titillating or sexy because I felt like maybe the goal of this was just to be taboo. I just wasn't really sure what to think of that, being someone that was raised in a religious household. So both of these, the details are slightly different. In Sinner, we have a male-female relationship. The female is wanting to be a nun, but told to go out and explore and make sure that she experiences some life before fully committing to being a nun. In the other one, we have a male-male relationship, and one of the guys is considering becoming a brother or a monk, and his ex-boyfriend kind of comes back into his life saying that he's getting married, and it starts to make him question whether he can be religious and have this man in his life. There's like some mental health reasons as to why he feels like he has to, being a monk or being a brother. I actually really ended up liking these because what it ended up doing, which is not what I thought it was going to do, was exploring the gray area of being a religious person. It was looking at whether they have to pick one or the other. Do they have to pick this religious order? Do they want to pursue a relationship with this person? You need to separate the two. And the reason that this exploration is happening is because we're specifically looking at Catholicism. Most religious callings require you to be single and celibate. This was exploring, well, but what does it look like maybe to have both? Can you have both? Do you have to choose? What does that look like? Yeah, it's smutty, but for the most part, it treated religion with a lot more deference than I was really expecting. So next up, we have Still Beating by Jennifer Hartman. And I should clarify too, I've read the indie version, not the traditionally published version of this, but I didn't think that I was going to like this because the premise sounded really far-fetched. I didn't know if I could buy into it. The premise of this is that Cora and her sister's fiance, they don't get along, end up being held captive, end up having to kind of turn to each other in order to survive, and from there develop a romance. And it's them finding healing together after they get out. I wasn't really expecting the emotional depth that this book brought because I really thought a lot of this was going to be them in captivity and like trauma bonding. This was more of was Cora healing after getting out and how Dean really helps her through that, and really just the need for someone after you've been through trauma to really be there to understand you. So it had so much more emotional depth than I was really expecting. Again, I thought it was going to be something that it was like dark and titillating sort of for the sake of it, but really this was a hard hitter. Last one. We're gonna end on something a little bit more lighthearted. Neon Gods by Katie Robert. This one initially, I didn't think I was going to like because I have read so many Hades and Persephone retelling. One more, I'm going to lose it. I just had read so many poorly executed ones that were really like wink, wink, nudge, nudge about all the little references that they could include. And the stories were never that good. The characters were very flat. It was sort of just like, I have an enemies to lovers retelling and then I threw some Greek stuff in. Don't you like it? Don't you like it? Don't you like it? As it turns out, this one wasn't like that. So the premise of this is actually that Persephone is trying to escape an engagement to Zeus. The gods are not like born into these positions. They're voted in, or it's more of like an elected official position. And in order to escape, she ends up going across the river Styx and into the arms of Hades. Hades agrees to keep her safe, but they have to do sort of a fake dating situation to really kind of sully her reputation so that Zeus won't come after her. So that's a very high level overview of what's going on in this book. This I thought was actually a pretty well done. I mean, Hades and Persephone was the framework, but Katie Roberts really like made this her own. It felt more akin to like a mafia romance than it did a like fantasy Greek retelling. And I really ended up enjoying that because it didn't rely so heavily on the original story and the archetypes of the characters. I ended up really liking it. And those, my friends, are a bunch of books that I thought I would hate that I end up really liking. Let me know. Have you read any books that you absolutely thought you were gonna hate that you ended up loving? Have you ever had the reverse? Don't forget to like this video if you liked it. Subscribe if you want more content from me. And with that, thank you so much for being here, and I hope to see you on my next video. Bye-bye.